The question is, do steroids actually shorten your lifespan? Find out in a few minutes.
I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
RX Television, RXMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, your weekly 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. Whatever's on your mind, bodybuilding, non-bodybuilding, diet, training, supplementation, it is all on the forum. This is your forum to ask Dave whatever you have on your mind over this next episode. We go right into the questions. The first two questions on the show from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. I'm over 60 years old. I still use gear to some extent, not in my age, I guess not my age in my head, and I still train as if I'm going to make gains, even though I maintain pretty good. My legs are starting to go a little bit due to my age. I still train the hell out of them. Do you think gear and starting to introduce HGH will be productive at this age?
Yeah, receptors are receptors. You're going to respond no matter what age you take stuff. Obviously, if you take gear in your 20s, or your early 20s, your mid 20s, whatever, you're going to respond better. There's no way about it. This androgen receptors and recovery is just better when you're younger. I mean, I don't think we figured out why yet, but it is, and your body responds better. But I know guys that started lifting seriously in their 40s and never took any gear because they never worked out, and they started taking gear and they grew like crazy. And those are the guys that you see at Masters Nationals winning like the 50 and over and 60 and over categories. These are guys that started late, they have no injuries, and they do respond. They're not putting on massive amounts of muscle like a 20-year-old would, but your body's always going to respond. How much it responds is, number one, genetic, because some people just respond better than other people, and number two, your age definitely has something to do with it. Number three, are you injured? If you don't have any injuries and you can train, you're going to respond better as well. And a lot of people don't understand that. They think, well, you know what? I have a bad back, and if I take steroids, I'm going to be able to build my legs, even though I can't, squat. I can't do certain exercises. That's just not the case. You have to be able to work out for the anabolics to work. Likewise, if you don't eat, enough protein and enough essential fats and stuff like that, you're not going to grow as well. So assuming you got the training down and you got your diet down, yes, you're going to respond. And once again, it's a personal decision whether you take it or not. If you have health issues and you're risking them, by taking it, that's a different story. But if you're healthy and you can do it, I think you're pretty safe.
Second question, again, these first two from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. I was listening to a Coach Greg video, Greg Doucette, who we happen to have the pleasure of seeing at this past Arnold Classic, and he kept referring to, quote, taking all these steroids and taking years off your life. Can you share your thoughts on the quote, "Does steroids shorten your lifespan?"
Wow, this is like a health issue we're doing here, right? So, listen, do anabolic steroids shorten your life? I don't know if there's any way to actually prove that. I guess in some people, if it exacerbates and makes certain health conditions in your body worse, yeah, it can shorten your life, I guess. I mean, I don't think that steroids per se cause heart problems where people have heart attacks. It's certainly not causing blockages in your coronary arteries. Eating poorly, okay, will do that. Genetics, more than anything, will do that. Can steroids obviously raise blood pressure and cause kidney issues? Yeah, absolutely. I know guys that have lost kidneys probably because they took steroids and their blood pressure was high and uncontrolled, without a doubt. So there are certain predispositions that steroids can make worse and exacerbate. I think the kidney issue is something that a lot of people don't take seriously. And what they don't understand is that steroids are not kidney toxic, meaning that the kidneys don't break down steroids. So taking a lot of steroids, because I think some people are under the impression that certain anabolics are kidney toxic. They're not. we say trenbolone is not good for the kidneys because trenbolone raises blood pressure, and high blood pressure on the kidneys, which are basically a filtering apparatus, right? They filter your blood. If you have too much pressure on that filter, it can damage the filtering mechanism. And over time, it doesn't happen in 1 or 2 years. It happens over 10 or 15 or 20 years. You can damage your kidneys to the point where they're not functioning anymore. And that's why you see guys whose creatinine starts to elevate as they, progress longer and longer with this high blood pressure. And this could happen to people who are not on anabolics as well, if you have uncontrolled high blood pressure. So, but anabolics definitely increase the idea of high blood pressure, especially because you're heavy, how many guys naturally walk around at 260 pounds? It doesn't happen. So the anabolics allow you to get bigger like that. And in doing so, you usually have a higher blood pressure, especially once you get into your 30s and 40s, blood pressure starts trickling up, and that can be dangerous to the kidneys. So there are situations like that now, but steroids themselves are not, going to shorten your life. Once again, unless you're using orals that are very toxic, and then you can have some liver issues with that. I've seen that happen to some people. I think in today's day and age, a lot of guys understand that orals are not really good for you, like the toxic ones like Anadrol and Dianabol. And I don't really see a lot of people using excessive orals. They're using the long-acting injectables, which are not liver toxic. And so the liver issues I'm not seeing as much as I used to see maybe in the 80s and 90s. You got some people who were just crazy with the orals. You don't really see that anymore, but I am seeing high blood pressures, okay, which is concerning to me. And once again, I worry about kidney function with bodybuilders. That seems to be the main predisposing, side effect that can cause long-term damage and potentially shorten your life. To get back to the question. Now, these two questions are really good. These are from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. This is the kind of questions that I answer on a daily basis on the app. It's $29 a month. You can download it on your iTunes store or from your Android store, depending on what phone you have. And you get basically me as a coach in your back pocket. All my videos, all my writings I've ever done are in one place. It's all my protocols, my keto diet, my cyclical keto diet, my off-season diet, all the drug protocols, off-season, pre-contest, men, women, advanced, beginner. It's all there. And I answer questions every day in an open forum. So you see everyone's questions and answers. And I do a Q&A video exclusively every single week for the app members. It's a great learning experience. If you're a coach, it's a great thing to have. It's your back pocket. It's continuing education. You can write it off your taxes. And you know what? It's a great gift to get for someone who's really serious about bodybuilding and learning about their body and potentially being a coach. So thank you for your support all these years. And I'll continue doing this as long as people support it.
Before we go to the rest of our questions, our friends over at Titan Medical Center have a patient appreciation week. So essentially this week, they're having discounts on just about all their therapies,
Yep.
blood work, everything that it is that they have to offer. Let me pull up the other graphic here. So you have a full...
It's a good time to restock, Sid.
Yeah, here we go. So obviously their energy, clarity, glow and beauty, hormones and wellness, recovery and healing. This is all available for this week. So discounts on just about every single treatment and service that Titan Medical has to offer.
Yeah, it's like a once a year thing they do, Sid. And so I think if people are using these peptides and they are using the hormone replacement, all that stuff, stock up now because it's cheaper now. They're discounting everything. So get everything done. Do your blood work now. You know what I mean? If you're serious about your body and this is something you're doing every month anyway, don't wait. This is like when we have one of our crazy sales, like Black Friday said, I know guys that stock up for 6 months worth of species stuff when they do that because we give such good discounts on it. This is a similar situation for Titan. So if you guys are using any of these peptides or these modalities, you might want to start using them. This is a good time to do it because everything is discounted only for this week. Check it out at TitanMedicalCenter.com. Tell them Dave Palumbo and RX Muscle sent you.
Once again, mention Dave Palumbo, RX Muscle, and you will get the royal hookup. Let's go to the rest of our questions from the YouTube community page. If you go to our YouTube channel, on the tab that says posts, if you want to ask a question for further episodes or look back at questions that have been asked, that is generally now where we take our questions. I hate this show because I used to be happy just taking on my whey protein, but now I can't even go to the grocery store without analyzing the glycemic index of a cucumber. Question: I've heard you say that keto is the most efficient way to burn fat, but my gym performance is tanking. How do I maintain mind-muscle connection when my glycogen is completely depleted?
Yeah, I think what you have to realize is if you do a ketogenic diet, which is a high protein, moderate fat, my ketogenic diet, it's not the medical ketogenic diet, which is high fat, low, moderate protein. It's high protein, moderate fat, very, very low carbs. If you're going to do a diet like that, your glycogen stores, which you still will have some, are going to be low, meaning that you're not going to have the ability to train for a long period of time at a high intensity, which you shouldn't do anyway. But the bottom line is that certain body parts take, a long time to do, back and legs specifically. So, definitely don't do two body parts, per session. And if you're really hurting that much, and most people do a ketogenic diet for a limited time period. Okay, so let's say they want to get in shape in 12 weeks, they do 12 weeks. The first 6 weeks you're fine, and then the second 6 weeks you're starting to hurt a little bit. So what I recommend doing is we're giving you a cheat meal once a week. So on your weak body part days, or on days where you need that extra energy, like legs or back, do your legs or back workout the day after your cheat meal. So if Saturday night's your cheat meal, then on Sunday morning, go and do back or go and do legs. And that's going to be a great workout because you're going to be glycogen, loaded. Likewise, you might want to do the next, you might want to do like legs on Sunday and then Monday do back, because you'll still have some glycogen left from that cheat meal on Monday. The other option is if you're a person who likes the ketogenic diet because you like the way you feel mentally, because your brain is using ketones, fats instead of carbs, and you're really you're focused, you can work properly, you're not getting cravings. If you're one of those people and you're doing it long term, you might want to incorporate 2 cheat meals a week, or where you have a little bit of a one meal the night before back day, one meal the night before leg day. The other body parts usually can handle lower glycogen amounts because they don't take that long to train. Chest, you want to get a nice workout, but how many sets do you do chest? I mean, if you're smart, you're only doing probably 8 to 10 sets for chest, and you can get a great workout in. So yeah, there is a low glycogen effect, but once again, for most people, they're doing it for a very limited time period. And once they get to the end of the diet and they're lean, they carb themselves up, and then they do a maintenance diet. So it's really not that bad. Once again, time your cheat meals around the body parts that you want to, prioritize. I can't hear you, Sid.
Sorry about that. There we go. I found that using exogenous amounts of GH, my appetite has dropped slightly, but it rebounds instantly when off cycle. Any way to keep the appetite high when on GH usage is around 8 to 9 IU?
Yeah, well, usually guys on GH are hungry. I used to be starving all the time. I think you're using too much. 8 to 9 IUs a day is a lot of GH. I mean, back in the day, we would have thought you were crazy. First of all, it would have been insanely expensive to do that. We used to use 2 to 4 IUs max, and that was expensive. So I think what's happening is when I hear people telling me the opposite of what should be true, like, hey, I'm taking GH and I can't eat. I have to believe that the excessive dosages are doing something. And I don't know what else he's taking. Maybe he's taking something else. I'm assuming it's the GH that's inhibiting his appetite. I've never heard that before, but maybe you're making yourself so insulin resistant that your body just doesn't want it. Your blood sugars are high. I would, number one, test blood sugars on that. Number two, I would cut that GH in half, and I would probably do like 2 and 2. Well, you can do it all in the morning, if you want, but you can do 2 and 2 and break it up. Keep it at 4 IUs. Once again, I don't know why people do excessive amounts. You're not going to look like Jay Cutler or Big Ramy just because you're using 10 IUs of GH a day. It's the stupidest thing because it makes you so insulin resistant that you can't even absorb all the food you're eating. So more GH is not better. And the reason why I say this is because your body grows not because of the growth hormone you're taking. Your body grows because of the IGF-1 that the liver is producing in response to the GH that you're taking. So the liver only has the ability to produce so much IGF-1 per day. So you can take more and more and more and more GH. All you're doing is making yourself more insulin resistant. your liver is not going to produce beyond what it can produce IGF-1 wise. So most people, I found that the ideal amount is about 4 to 5 IUs max per day. I don't think you can produce any more IGF-1. I haven't seen IGF-1 levels on blood work go progressively up and up and up the more GH. It kind of levels off and it stops at like 4 or 5 IUs a day. And everyone's different, obviously. Some people respond better to GH and produce more IGF-1. Some people don't produce hardly any IGF-1 in response to GH. And that's just genetic variability. There's nothing you can do about that. But I think that when I hear these weird people telling me, I hear people say, I take steroids, I can't eat. I'm like, what are you taking? Now, obviously, orals will kill your appetite, but even some injectables, they're on like 5,000, milligrams a week of testosterone, and they wonder why they can't eat them. Well, they're toxic. You're toxifying your body. Even a long-acting injectable, if you take too much of it, your body can't handle it, and it's going to make you feel like you have the flu. And no one wants to eat when they have the flu. So, guys, don't overdo it. If you feel something if you're losing your appetite, or you feel kind of sick, or you feel kind of like, feverish, you're probably doing too much of whatever you're taking.
Question about men versus females as far as prep. Do women's fats need to be higher than equal comparison of a man during prep?
No, I base it on usually weight, and that's usually pretty accurate. So for women, it's usually about a half a gram. It's like 1 gram or half a gram of fat per pound. So if you're like, a woman's like 100 and, starting out at 150 pounds, she's going to get about 75 grams of fat, per day, spread out over 5 meals. That's about 15 grams of fat. For men, you can go about 3/4 of a gram of fat per pound. So like a 200-pound man, could take in, more fat than a woman would. You're not going to quite get 100, but you're going to get, you're going to get a little more than that. But so it really depends. Like I said, some guys and women, I'll give more fats to, some less. Once again, I see how the body responds. Ideally, when you're dieting someone, the more food you can feed them and have them still lose body fat, the better off you are. That's why with men, I'll give them protein, fat, and then on some days, and then other days, I'll give them protein and carbs with some vegetables. Because if they're losing weight on that, you don't have to eat fat every single day. And, I'd rather give them more food than less food. Some guys, I give protein, fat, and carbs like I do in the off season too. And they lose weight on that. And that's the best scenario, because now you're giving your body the fat and the protein that it needs to repair and build muscle. And then you have some carbs to use for fuel. So you're not going to be eating a lot of carbs, but if you can do that, ideally, that's the best scenario. But for most people, you have to take away something, for them to start losing weight. With the women, I start out with more, protein and fat. And then as they kind of slow their metabolism, or they're having trouble losing body fat, I'll go to days where I don't give them any fat. I'll do protein and vegetable days with them. So it's still like a ketogenic type diet, but they're eating like very little fat on those days. But they're eating more vegetables. And then on the other days, they're doing protein fat. So by and far, women need less fat than men do, but, not that much less.
Question about metrics, and he references your time with them, but he recently just came across a protein crisp that they make, so chips, 20 grams of bags, pea protein. Lentils seem to be the source. He's wondering if you've had a chance to check them out, and if you haven't, go check them out. Let us know what you think, whatever. He's asking if it's a good snack food for bodybuilding diet when craving, or if you have any other of these bodybuilding snacks that are made, be it Metrics, be it Quest, or be it, legendary foods. Yeah.
Snack wise, and when we talk about a snack, we're talking, I always said to myself I always said to people when they asked me, when I was competing, I never ate anything like as a snack that didn't have protein in it. So which is hard, because when I was competing in the 90s and early 2000s, there really was no protein. So I had to eat like protein bars and stuff like that. Nowadays, they have all these little, like you said, like chips and crisps and all these extra little things with protein in it, which is kind of cool. Now, listen, I wouldn't use the Metrics, chips that are made with pea protein as my source of protein. Like, in other words, I'm not going to replace a meal with that, okay, just because I'm eating the extra protein. But it's something if I'm sitting in front of the TV and I want to munch on something, you know what I mean, and I want to eat something, better than just like eating like Doritos and stuff like that, you know what I mean, that have no nutritional value whatsoever. At least that protein, it's not a great source of protein, pea protein, because it's not like, once again, it's not an animal source of protein that's going to drive protein synthesis, but it's also not going to get you fat, and it's also not. It is still protein. Your body can still use it to repair, hair, nail, skin, all that other stuff that goes on. So I like these snacks. I wouldn't be using them when I'm dieting, but I like these off season. There's a new company that makes protein pretzels that I am consumed with. You probably saw it on my Instagram. And they're gonna come on board as a sponsor because I love them so much that they were like, wow, we love your enthusiasm. So they're gonna be coming on as sponsor. I think it's an Israeli company, believe it or not. And these pretzels taste amazing. Matter of fact, the cheese ones taste like those little goldfish your kids eat. They're unbelievable. So protein pretzels, I love all these little chip things, like I said, in the off season, as long as you're not replacing your regular meals. So if you're eating 6 or 7, feedings a day between shakes and meals, that's fine. And you want to eat something extra in between that, these snacks foods are great. Legendary has a lot. Metrics has these new ones out that taste pretty good. I've tried them, by the way. And but these protein pretzels, I'm consumed with. They have like sesame seed, they have cheese, you'll see. I'll show them off on the next show that we do when I do my little read on their script, because they sent me over all the information about it. But they're great. They have like no carbs in them. They got like 3 net carbs, it's 20 grams of protein in a bag. They're awesome. It's wonderful that we have options these days as opposed to in the past. But don't get caught up with missing meals because you're doing that. Snacks are extra, and that's in the off season, and they're not going to be used pre-contest, obviously, but it's a great option I give it to my kids. I mean, it's really, really, I'd rather them eat that than Doritos.
What's the best anti-aging vanity stack? Now it says non-peptide, so I guess really supplements, fish oil, etc. for those looking to keep the years off their face.
I think that a lot of people ask me, hey Dave, you look like you're aging in reverse. Your skin looks really good. What do you do? And I don't see it, but whatever. But I do get compliments like that. Thank you. I'm almost 60. I'll take every compliment I can get at this point. But I think it's because I give my body what it needs. And I think that's important. A lot of people are deficient and they don't know it. Bodybuilders tend to eat enough protein. I don't know if they all eat enough essential fats. It's hard to get it in the diet. Pretty much everyone eats enough carbs. But carbs are not essential. So, but vitamins, minerals, trace metals, antioxidants, polyphenolics, these are all things that we do not get enough of. The reason I make the supplements I do with Species Nutrition is really a selfish endeavor. I made it for myself. I said, listen, I want something that I want all the essential ingredients that are going to, number one, keep me healthy. Number two, enable me to recover from my workouts, build and repair muscle, and burn fat optimally. So I made the whole Species Nutrition line based on that premise, because I said to myself, I'd be nuts to have to buy other people's products, okay? And I'm selling a supplement line. So I'm going to make what I need for myself, and then I'm going to explain to other people why you need this, even though a lot of these other companies out there are not going to tell you that because it's too expensive, and they want to sell you cheap stuff, and they want to make you believe that their products take care of all these and check all these boxes, but they really don't. But mine do. And I'm, like I said, I'm not trying to come off as arrogant or bragging here. I'm just telling you that the way it is. They're a little more expensive, but you're getting what you need. V-Mineralize is the perfect. Now the new one is the perfect multivitamin, multi-mineral, antioxidant, polyphenolic, and fruit and vegetable extract product that you can possibly buy. It's all in one. 5 pills twice a day. You got everything covered. We have chelated minerals in there. All the B vitamins now are all methylated. The methyl B12, which was before. Now we have methylfolate in there as well. We have K2 I added in there to make sure to divert, calcium away from the blood vessels into the, the bones and the muscles, which we never had in there. It was hard to put it into a multivitamin years ago. It's not anymore. We figured it out. We have a nice healthy dose of 5,000 IUs of vitamin D3 in there. I have blueberry extract in there. I have lycopene from tomatoes. I have like the best of the best. It's really, you can't, I said, listen, 10 pills is the most I will give someone per day. I'm going to jam as much stuff into this stuff as possible, and everything's in real effective dosages. You do that with our essential fatty acid supplement, Omega Lyse, which no one has a fish oil / evening primrose oil product with palmitoleic acid. It doesn't exist. I know that because I went to all the manufacturers and everyone said no one makes this combination. No one puts fish oil and primrose oil. You need these to keep that omega-3 and 6 balance there. Those are super important for skin quality, okay, for inflammation balance in the body. You can't just take fish oil and not the evening primrose oil. You can't just take the evening primrose without the fish. So everything's got to be balanced in the right amounts, and you got to have effective dosages of this stuff. When you do this, when you provide these essential nutrients to the body and you eat healthy, meaning enough protein, enough fat in your diet, and not excessive carbs, your body becomes a well-oiled machine. It recovers from its workouts properly. Okay, your immune system is healthy, and you very rarely get sick, and everything works well. And as long as your toxicity level is low, and how do we get rid of toxins? Fiber. And that's why our number one selling product is Fiberlyze. And now this is not meant, I didn't even know this question was being asked. It was not meant to promote my line of species products. But the reason why I produce the three most important products that we produce is Fiberlyze, Omega Lyse, and Vimiralize is because that's what your body needs for optimal health and recovery and rebuilding and longevity. Okay. Everything else is what I call an extra product on top of that. It's a luxury item on top of that. Yeah, if you want a protein, shake, we have the best protein shake, but it's not necessary. You can get that stuff from your food. It's a convenience essentially. And the pre-workout, we sell a ton of, Stimulase Max. People love it. Okay, they feel like they're on an antidepressant when they take it, but it's not necessary. It's not there for optimal health. It's a performance product, and that's why moving forward into the future, and I haven't really announced this, we're kind of dividing species nutrition into the performance line versus the health line. And I think it's important that people know what they need to take to be the most healthy that they can be. And you can't get this stuff from your diet. And remember, all the chemical reactions in our bodies are driven by vitamins, minerals, and trace metals as cofactors. If we run out of these materials, okay, the body just can't do those chemical reactions. So it just won't build muscle. It won't burn fat at optimal levels. It can only do what it has. It's like going to a factory and telling the factory, listen, there's certain raw materials we just are not going to give you. Well, then the factory's going to be like, we can't make the car then. If you don't give us the seats, how are we going to make the car? So you need all the essential nutrients. You don't just need protein, fat, and carbs, which are your macronutrients. You need your micronutrients as well. And it's once you figure out the balance, and you really don't even have to figure it out. I did it already for you, okay? And I tell you every week on this show how to eat properly. If you do it consistently, day after day after day, you make it like brushing your teeth. You're going to see your skin quality change. You're going to see your muscle quality change. You're going to see your body fat quality change. And you're going to feel younger, and you're going to think more clearly. And you're going to say, holy mackerel, I can't believe it was that easy. It was right under my nose the whole time. I just wasn't applying it every single day.
That's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. If you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe below, hit the notification bell. You're not going to miss this or any of the other segments that we have on this channel. Now that we're in the thick of the contest calendar, obviously the Arnold UK is next week, and then the ball's going to be rolling. We're going to, before you know it, in 5 weeks, it's going to be New York Pro, Pittsburgh Pro. We're going to have chock full of content. We did an exclusive interview yesterday, in-person interview with Steve Weinberger, head judge. He gave us his takes on everything that took place at this past Arnold Classic, and then kind of projecting ahead with some of the biggest players from last weekend's Arnold Classic. For Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.